Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Beware of child abuse examples. Viewer discretion advised. This comes from Child Welfare Information Gateway, Definitions of Child Abuse and Neglect, California, May 2022. Physical abuse. Citation, Welfare Institute Code 300, Penal Code 11165.6. A child may be considered dependent and subject to supervision by the Department of Social Services under the following circumstances. The child has suffered or there is a substantial risk that the child will suffer serious physical harm inflicted non-accidentally upon the child by the child's parent or guardian. For the purposes of this subdivision, a court may find there is a substantial risk of serious future injury based on the way a less serious injury was inflicted, a history of repeated inflictions of injuries on the child or the child's siblings, or a combination of these and other actions by the parent or guardian that indicate the child is at risk of serious physical harm. The child is younger than age 5 and has suffered severe physical abuse by a parent or by any person known by the parent. By any person known by the parent. If the parent knew or reasonably should have known that the person was physically abusing the child. The child's parent or guardian caused the death of another child through abuse or neglect. The child has been subjected to an act or acts of cruelty by the parent or guardian or a member of their household, or the parent or guardian has failed to adequately protect the child from an act or acts of cruelty. The parent or guardian has failed to adequately protect the child from an act or acts of cruelty when the parent or guardian knew or reasonably should have known that the child was in danger of being subjected to an act or acts of cruelty. For the purposes of this subdivision, severe physical abuse means any of the following. Any single act of abuse that causes physical trauma of sufficient severity, if left untreated, would cause permanent physical disfigurement, permanent physical disability, or death. Any single act of sexual abuse that causes significant bleeding, deep bruising, or significant external or internal swelling. More than one act of physical abuse, each of which causes bleeding, deep bruising, significant external or internal swelling, bone fracture, or unconsciousness. The willful, prolonged failure to provide adequate food. The willful, prolonged failure to provide adequate food. In the Penal Code, as used in this article, the term child abuse or neglect includes physical injury or death inflicted by other than accidental means upon a child by another person. Sexual abuse is defined in 11165.1. Neglect as defined in 11165.2. The willful harming or injuring of a child, or the endangering of the person or health of a child, as defined in 11165.3, and unlawful corporal punishment or injury, as defined in 11165.4. Neglect. Citation, Welfare Inst. Code 300, Penal Code 1165.2. A child may be considered dependent under the following circumstances. The child has suffered, or there is a substantial risk that the child will suffer serious physical harm or illness because of the following: the failure or inability of the parent or guardian to adequately supervise or protect the child, the willful or negligent failure of the parent or guardian to adequately supervise or protect the child from the conduct of the custodian with whom the child has been left. Like all the guardians in Scientology, where the parents just hand their children over. The willful or negligent failure of the parent or guardian to provide the child with adequate food, clothing, shelter, or medical treatment. Medical treatment. The inability of the parent or guardian to provide regular care for the child due to the parent's or guardian's mental illness, developmental disability, or substance abuse. The child's sibling has been abused or neglected, and there is a substantial risk that the child will be abused or neglected. The court shall consider the circumstances surrounding the abuse or neglect of the sibling. Oh, really? That's if it gets to court, right? The age and gender of each child, the nature of the abuse or neglect of the sibling, the mental condition of the parent, or guardian, and any other factors. The court considers probative in determining whether there is a substantial risk to the child. The child has been voluntarily surrendered at an infant safe surrender site, and the child has not been reclaimed within the 14-day period specified in statute. The child parent has been incarcerated or institutionalized and cannot arrange for the care of the child. A relative or other adult custodian with whom the child resides or has been left is unwilling or unable to provide care or support for the child. The whereabouts of the parent are unknown, and reasonable efforts to locate the parent have been unsuccessful. In the Penal Code, the term neglect means the negligent treatment or the maltreatment of a child by a person responsible for the child's welfare, under circumstances indicating harm or threatened harm to the child's health or welfare. The term includes both acts and omissions on the part of the responsible person. Severe neglect means the negligent failure of a person having the care or custody of a child to protect the child from severe malnutrition or medically diagnosed non-organic failure to thrive. Severe neglect also means those situations of neglect where any person having the care or custody of a child willfully causes or permits the child to be placed in a situation where their person or health is endangered, including the intentional failure to provide adequate food, clothing, shelter, or medical care. I wonder if the RPF covers that. You gotta wonder. Oh, I mean the child RPF, because, let's be clear. General neglect means the negligent failure of a person having the care or custody of a child to provide adequate food, clothing, shelter, medical care, or supervision where no physical injury to the child has occurred. Sexual abuse, exploitation. Code 300, Penal Code 1165.1. A child is considered dependent if they have been sexually abused. There is a substantial risk that the child will be sexually abused. There is a substantial risk that the child will be sexually abused, as defined in 1165.1 of the Penal Code by their parent, guardian, or a household member, or the parent or guardian has failed to adequately protect the child from sexual abuse when the parent or guardian knew or reasonably should have known that the child was in danger of sexual abuse. Like all the men in Scientology that knew, right? And the women. The legislature finds that declares that a child who is sexually trafficked, as described in 236.1 of the Penal Code, or who receives food or shelter in exchange for, or who is paid to perform blank, like the girls for Wally Banks, is within the description of the subdivision, and that these children should be known as commercially sexually exploited children. Like the children that Wally Hanks hurt. In the Penal Code, sexual abuse means sexual assault or sexual exploitation, as defined below. Sexual assault includes RAPE, incest, SODOMY, lewd or lascivious acts upon a child, or child molestation. See, there's a difference. All these newspapers keep wanting to print the M word, when in fact it was the R word. Sexual exploitation refers to any of the following: depicting a minor engaged in obscene acts, preparing. Okay, I'm going to pass this. This is all the sexual abuse and trafficking. Emotional abuse. Code 300. A child is considered dependent if they are suffering serious emotional damage or are at substantial risk of suffering serious emotional damage, as evidenced by severe anxiety. This is all of the Scientology children. Every single one of them, whether they know it or not. Withdrawal or untoward aggressive behavior towards self or others as a result of the conduct of the parent or guardian, or who has no parent or guardian capable of providing appropriate care. No child shall be found to be a dependent person if the willful failure of the parent or guardian to provide adequate mental health treatment is based on a sincerely held religious belief. Oh, so you can abuse kids if you got a religion, you guys. Just so you know. And if a less intrusive judicial intervention is available. So abuse is okay if you're religious, I guess. Isn't that wonderful? There's got to be still ways that people can be prosecuted for the abuse. And the world has spoken, and they think what the children in Scientology are going through is heinous abuse. The world has spoken, you guys. Abandonment. 300. A child is considered dependent when any of the following are true. The child has been left without any provision for support. Physical custody of the child has been voluntarily surrendered pursuant to 1255.7 of the Health and Safety Code, and the child has not been reclaimed within the 14-day period specified in subdivision of that section. This is where people swoop in and start trafficking, just to let you guys know. The child's parent, and everyone's in on it. That's all I'm going to say. The child's parent has been incarcerated or institutionalized and cannot arrange for the care of the child. A relative or other adult custodian with whom the child resides or has been left is unwilling or unable to provide care or support for the child. The whereabouts of the parent are unknown, and reasonable efforts to locate the parent have been unsuccessful. The child has been freed for adoption by one or both parents for 12 months by either relinquishment or termination of parental rights, or an adoption petition has not been granted. Oh, listen up, LAPD. This is the standards for reporting. Crazy, huh? A mandatory reporter shall make a report whenever they, in their professional capacity or within the scope of their employment, has knowledge of or observes a child whom the mandated reporter knows or reasonably suspects has been the victim of child abuse or neglect. Just look at all the L. Ron Hubbard's policies towards children. It's easy. All the LAPD do, or any of these police stations and departments need to do, get all the L. Ron Hubbard policies really easy to get a hold of and see what they're doing to children. That's the evidence. That's it. It's not hard. The term reasonable suspicion means that it is objectively reasonable for a person to entertain a suspicion based upon facts that could cause a reasonable person in a like position, drawing when appropriate on their training and experience. LAPD, listen to this. On their training and experience to suspect child abuse or neglect. Reasonable suspicion does not require certainty. Look at that, you guys. All the security guards and the LAPD and the private investigators that want a fair game, people who left Scientology. It's so easy. Reasonable suspicion does not require certainty that child abuse or neglect has occurred. That's suspicion, you guys. Nor does it require a specific medical indication of child abuse or neglect. Any reasonable suspicion is sufficient. Me personally, if you go into a Scientology building, the ones full of roaches and all kind of fire codes that are like against the law, hazardous materials, safety concerns, people living 6 people in a bunk per room, electrical cords that are probably exposed. If you go into the buildings, which you have a right to, if you're a police officer, you don't let a religious organization tell you what to do. Because guess what? Put your big boy pants on, put your big girl pants on, and do your job that you're supposed to do. Reasonable suspicion. You can't go in there and just listen to their little, what was that show? Desperate Housewives. Their little Desperate Housewives act that they're the perfect parents and that they love their children. And Betty's wearing like a little 1950s dress and she's baking a cake. And then Dad's over there and he's hugging the child saying what a great father he was. No, you have to go into their auditing rooms and see how they hold down the children's hands. They won't let the child move. They ask the child sexual questions repeatedly. They don't allow the child to be a child. We know LAPD and other departments need help. We're here. There's a lot of people that will help because this is not acceptable. No more. No more. Stand up and be a decent human being. It's not hard. Persons responsible for the child citation. Welfare and Institute Code 300. A person responsible for a child's welfare includes the child's parent or guardian. As used in this section, guardian means the legal guardian of the child. That's also something to look into. The feds and the state departments need to look into all these guardianships. We all know that's how children get trafficked as well, through all these guardianships shit. And child marriages as well. It's a fact. It's a fact. Look it up, bro. Exceptions. Citation Welfare and Institute Code 300. 300.5, 16509.1, Penal Code 1165.1, 1165.6. Serious physical harm does not include reasonable and age-appropriate spanking to the buttocks. That doesn't mean like a spanking that lasts for like 6 or 7 minutes and where you tell a little baby child to lower their pants and stuff, which they did in the Catholic orphanages and stuff. They burnt the so-called witches on the stake. They should have been burning them on the stake. That's a fact. That's a fact. A child will not be found to be a dependent child when any of the following apply. And mind you, nowhere in the California statutes and laws, nowhere does it say a child is a child is an adult in a small body. When the dependency is solely due to the failure of the child's parent to seek court orders for custody of the child. When the dependency is solely due to lack of an emergency shelter for the family. When the willful failure of the parent or guardian to provide adequate mental health treatment is based on a sincerely held religious belief. That includes children that are or teenagers that are psychotic. Yes. Just so any Scientologists listening to this, just know when the child is psychotic, a lot of them go on to kill their parents, kill other people, kill themselves. So all that, I don't want to give them medication when they're hearing voices and stuff, you should really think about it. Look at how they put this little clause in everything. This is like a legal thing. When the willful failure of the parent or guardian to provide adequate mental health treatment is based on a sincerely held religious belief, even if the child dies, by the way, and if a less intrusive judicial intervention is available, even if the child dies. You guys heard the one that I read earlier of all the children that died in these religious institutions? Isn't that great? When the dependency is solely due to a parent's physical disability, such as blindness or deafness, unless the parent's disability prevents the parents from exercising care and control. A child whose parent has been adjudged a dependent child shall not be considered at risk or abuse or neglect solely because of the age, dependent status, or foster care status of the parent. In any case in which a child is alleged to be dependent on the basis that they need medical care, the court, in making that finding, shall consider any treatment being provided to the child by spiritual means through prayer alone in accordance with the tenets and practices of a recognized church or religious denomination by an accredited practitioner thereof. No child who is in good faith is under treatment solely by spiritual means, through prayer in accordance with the tenets and practices of a recognized church or religious denomination, by a duly accredited practitioner thereof, shall, for that reason alone, be considered to have been neglected. Listen to that, Scientology. No child who in good faith is under treatment solely by spiritual means through prayer in accordance with the tenets and practices of a recognized church, that means your policies, or religious denomination, by a duly accredited practitioner, thereof should be, for that reason alone, be considered to have been neglected. Okay, I don't know if I understood that. In the Penal Code, sexual assault does not include voluntary conduct. Oh, like volunteers in Scientology? If there are no indicators of abuse, unless the conduct is between a person aged 21 or older, and a minor who is younger than age 16. Oh, that would cover all the child marriages in Scientology, right? Yeah. So that means they're being abused. Child abuse or neglect does not include a mutual affray between minors. What the fuck does that mean? Affray. Hold on, I gotta look it up. Okay, I'll read this first and then I'm gonna go look it up. Child abuse or neglect does not include an injury caused by reasonable and necessary force. Oh, look at that. Isn't that great, you guys? Isn't that beautiful? Used by a peace officer. I don't know why they call police officers peace officers, because they're not. Acting within the course and scope of their employment as a peace officer. Yeah, they got to act within the course and scope of their employment. Okay, now I'm going to go look up that word because I don't know what affray means. So, according to Google, affray means an instance of fighting in a public place that disturbs the peace. Lowe was charged with causing an affray. So that's it. Hold on, there's more. Beware of child abuse examples. Viewer discretion is advised. Now I'm going to show an audio YouTube video. It's just audio, there's no video. Which was recorded by the person sharing it, of the abuse that Wally Hanks gave to this young boy. And he basically was beating the crap out of him. Okay, this is my truth on Scientology. The name of the video is Scientology Child Abuse. Mace Kingsley Ranch, hidden recording. Just so you guys know, this is really extreme. Initially, I was not going to share this, but I feel that I have to. I want to know, I want to ask the LAPD, I want to ask especially the Clearwater Police, the Denver Police, whom else? Hemet Police, well, we know about them. Hemet Police, all of these other police organizations, the FBI, Child Protective Services, Immigration Naturalization Services, what else? Department of Justice. I want to ask them if this constitutes enough abuse for them to do something. Thank God Wally Hanks is dead now. But here we go.
I'm going to play the audio that you recorded in 1988. Are you okay with me playing the tape?
Yeah, there's actually another guy on the tape. His name was Mike Miller. There's two large men there, and then there was another adult, kind of a teenager. I think he was 19 or 20, but he didn't talk at all. He's just there kind of for chase Marco around and catch him.
All right, basically, if Marco wanted to run at this point and he didn't want it to happen, he had no choice, correct? There was two large guys there, you said?
Yeah, he was cornered in the course room. They had the course room in the garage, so he was cornered in the garage.
That makes it even worse. All right, here we go.
Okay.
I've had this myself done to me. Mike has had it done to him. It's the facts of life. You can continue to create codes against your friends.
That sounds like a real scumbag. All right now we're just kind of building up to it. Things are a little bit quiet.
Yeah, they're basically chasing him around right now, trying to get a hold of him.
He's saying like, come on, Marco.
Yeah, he was a skinny little kid. I mean, he was wily. They had a hard time getting their hands on him.
I tell you the part that really bothers me is he was being beat while having to look L. Ron Hubbard in the eye. That's just insane.
If you just bend over, take it, it'll be done.
Right, he's telling him to bend over, take it, and we'll be done.
Yeah, I think that was Mike Miller that said that. Yeah, that's Mike Miller.
Right. Take it like a man. Yeah. Why doesn't Mike Miller be a man and not beat children?
Yeah, he was another sicko. He liked to castrate pigs.
Right, we can hear like chairs being moved or like some kind of like being created.
Yeah, they arranged the desks so they could like kind of corral him, and they were going to hold him against the desk. That's what it was.
And none of these guys went to a jail for this?
No, it was sanctioned by, he submitted it to the church, to the case officer and everything, so it was all sanctioned.
I have no idea how like this pisses me off.
The parents knew about it too.
Alright, he's taking his jacket off, this poor kid.
Yeah, he was sweating. This is in Palm Beach, so he was hot. Sweating.
Alright, the bad part's about to start. I'm gonna have a moment of silence here.
So LAPD, Denver PD, Hemet PD, FBI, Department of Justice, Immigration Naturalization Services, who else? Whomever else. Does 3 men ganging up on one young skinny boy, beating the living shit out of him, does that constitute abuse? Because inquiring minds want to know.
He's gonna stand there long. He'll stand there like I'm gonna give him like a man. Over this way. That's the purpose of it. You ready? Lean forward. Lean forward.
Lean forward.
I've had this myself.
He's had it himself.
Doesn't give me pleasure to do this. Look at the picture of LRH right there. Marco.
Look at the picture of LRH.
Marco.
You know, Wally was a giant man. That belt was huge.
Look at the picture of LRH. That's it. Look forward.
That was one.
We got 5 more coming.
5 more coming. 5 more coming.
Come on, Marco.
You know, Marco was such a skinny little kid, he didn't really have an ass for him to hit, so Wally kept hitting him on his legs. That's what he's mad about.
You see that, you guys? He asked, what's the policy? A Scientologist, I want to know what the fucking policy is for beating the living crap out of a young boy. I want to know. I want to know why nobody did anything. That's what I want to know.
My sound girl is like literally crying right now. And like what's messed up is like, all right, so we just heard him take 5 more beatings. And for me, I think even though you think it's over and he doesn't get beat anymore, the worst part is about to happen right now.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The end is the worst.
I mean, you would think him getting beat would be the worst, but no, Wally topped it off.
Yeah, makes him shake his hand. He tries to make him sit down on his butt after he got spanked.
Listen to the hatred, the absolute hatred and just evil you're about to hear when Wally loses his temper.
Don't yell at me, man. I said sit down in the chair.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there.
It got worse. It got worse. But apparently that wasn't enough for anyone to do anything about Scientology. Right now there are children still going to the Mace Kingsley in Florida. But I believe that these children are being abused everywhere within the Scientology walls. And nobody's doing anything about it because Scientology has so much money. And everybody knows it's not really a religion. Policies are not religion. It's not religion. And even in various different churches, like the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, all these different churches, they don't make you do auditing. They don't make you pay all this money. They don't abuse children. Well, I mean, they do abuse children, but it's just not done in the same way. And I just really wish someone would do something about it. So we, the people, are going to continue to talk. I'm going to continue to talk until I take my last breath. So hopefully someone will listen and someone will go in there and take care of these perpetrators. Wally Hanks was a scumbag. And not only did he do that to the boys, which were obviously his competition, he was sexually abusing the young girls as well. And Scientology loved him so much, they let him open his own school. Isn't that great? So, we can only hope that somebody somewhere starts doing something. Have a good day. I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe. Otherwise, have a good day or a good night wherever you are. Peace.